I had a conversation maybe about 18 months ago with Philip Rosendale, the Second Life founder, and he was talking a lot about the negative communication bias in the workplace. And that's kind of an interesting term. And what he meant by that was so much of our day-to-day interaction in the workplace is relatively negative, with people, contacting you for something that's late or something that was done in a certain way and they expected it to be done in a different way, or somebody that's not happy that something isn't functioning correctly. So we talked a little bit about his ideas about how you counteract that, and I think Rypple is a very interesting tool in the fact that it has inbuilt facilities for creating a positively biased communication. So one of the main actions that's in use here is around thanks, and that's fundamentally it's a positive thing. It's hard to be negative when you're thanking somebody for doing something. So that was a big motivation for me, was really just around culture and around affecting the culture. The second one is another big one for me personally, is avoiding the dreaded annual review. So, I've never been a fan of doing annual reviews. I fundamentally don't think that people are looking for an annual score sheet. I think people are looking for regular feedback on what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and coaching about how to do things better. And the final big driver for me is around transparency. So, at Gilt, I'm constantly pushing to provide, organizational transparency, both within my group and outside my group for the things that are going on. And there are lots of things that I do, but Rypple is definitely a tool that helps me increase transparency in the organization. And I'll talk to that a little bit more. So, getting into the, how it really helps us. So one thing that we use Rypple for is creating structure around our one-on-ones. It's really easy to have one-on-ones be a regular kind of feel-good session with an employee. But for me, I have so many one-on-ones that it's important that, I have a short one-on-one and I derive a lot of value out of it. So creating a structure for me around my one-on-ones, and also for the leads that report to me, encouraging them to have a strong structure around the one-on-ones is important. We also use the tool to encourage coaching beyond managers. And by that I mean, again, it's easy with a traditional org chart for you to kind of infer that the only person that should really be coaching you is your manager. But there are many times that there are other people in the organization much more suitable for coaching in other areas. So for example, if I have an engineer that's interested in maybe moving into product management, that's not something I can really effectively coach him on. I want to continue to coach him on engineering, but it's important for me to have a tool that allows him to have a relationship with somebody else in the organization to facilitate that coaching. As I mentioned with the annual review thing, if I'm not going to put emphasis on annual reviews, I want to put emphasis on continuous feedback, and having a tool that helps me out with that is important. And then, finally, to manage goals, managing goals is important to me at Gilt, just to define the initiatives that I have, the broad initiatives that I have, and to be able to manage around those.
We're at the lobby.
Cool. Sorry, my teammates are trying to get me to go out drinking right now, so they're anyway. So let me dig into some detail in some of those areas. So on one-on-ones, I find Rypple to be really useful in one-on-ones, both in terms of structuring the actual interaction during the one-on-one, defining actions, but also like as the week progresses, and as I think of things that I want to talk to different individuals about, I keep notes in Rypple. And then when we go into the one-on-one, we've both seen the notes and we're both prepared to have an efficient conversation during the one-on-one. And then as we go through the one-on-one, we can define clear actions. And those, the way that I use it, those aren't mental, like you said you wanted to improve in this area, so hey, why don't you go and read a book in that area, so that might be an action. Or it could be something around a larger kind of project objective, like, we're doing a release next week, let's make sure that it goes off well. So not a very kind of crisp task, something you would expect to be in a task tracking system, but, developmental or kind of fluffier actions. So let's go to the next slide. So we also make pretty extensive use of the feedback tool. I find it just a handy way to be able to address a large group and get anonymous feedback from a large group. But we also factor it into our project flows. So for example, we'll do quick project retrospectives, and I'll encourage developers on a project to solicit feedback from their peers about how they performed on that particular body of work, and then often we'll pull that into a larger face-to-face retrospective. But again, that's a good way for individuals to collect anonymous feedback about their performance in a certain more focused area. And I think that that comes back to this idea of getting continuous feedback. And it's not just about getting continuous feedback from your coach or coaches, it's about getting that feedback from your peers, the people you work with. So thanks, getting back to the addressing the negative bias in communication. Thanks, I think, is a really interesting feature, mostly because when we rolled out Rypple, it was a feature that took off spontaneously, both people giving thanks and giving thanks across the organization, and also coming up with a thanks structure, so coming up with these custom badges around things that we felt were important. And I highlight a couple of the badges there. We've got the upgrader badge, which I think is interesting. So one of the goals we have as an organization is to make sure that our software, we keep it up to date. So the subsystems we use, that we upgrade them. And so somebody created an upgrader badge, and that badge is used is used relatively frequently here. And also, we encourage blogging, and so we have a blogger badge. So that was fun to see the usage of that. And it's such an easy feature that I kind of see as a gateway feature, that when people start giving thanks, it kind of leads them into exploring some of the deeper features in Rypple. So goals, is a feature that we started using pretty extensively at Gilt. We've been using those to mostly define kind of large organizational goals, so things that as a tech organization we want to achieve. And they've been good. They definitely have been getting organic involvement and participation, and also commenting. People comment on the goals and the progress towards those goals. So it's a good way to really socialize the things that are important in our organization. And I have a couple of examples of goals that we have. So for example, we have a couple of initiatives to roll out automated code review at Gilt, and there's quite a bit of moving parts, and there's quite a bit of kind of solicitation and buy-in on that goal, and so that it's been good defining that in Rypple and seeing the interaction around that, and also just fostering engineering innovation. That's another goal that we have, and it's a larger goal that we do several things. So we have hackathons and innovation weeks and that type of thing, and those all kind of flow out of that goal. Maybe we can go there. And another huge one for me, as I mentioned at the start, is transparency. So Rypple is, the timeline in Rypple is a great tool to communicate in a easy and painless and very organic way about the things that are being worked on, what's important organizationally around goals in the organization, and the progress that we're making on those goals, and also just calling out who's kicking ass. Like at glance on the timeline, you can see the people are being both active and vocal about their activity. So that's always great to see. Yeah, and so just to to wrap up, it's nice to see Rypple growing organically at Gilt. We actually rolled it out at the tech team at Gilt, and somehow it seems to have infected our customer service team. So that's fun to see, and it's good to see other people looking at it and starting to get involved. And the big thing that I'm excited to do soon is to really push the notion of deriving our annual reviews with Rypple, so continuing to do continuous feedback and have annual reviews simply be a way to roll up the feedback that's been delivered in the the previous 3 to 6 months. Well, if it's an annual review, I guess it would be 12 months, but in the previous time period. So I'm excited to make that to push for that change. So that's really it. That's all I wanted to tell you guys about.